We're back. It's 2025. And welcome to Holly Mitchell and Sippin My Tea. How about that? It's been a minute, hasn't it? For those of you who are just joining me or don't know what this is, when I was in the state Senate, thank you, Annie, who was my comms director at the time, and we were in COVID on lockdown. We were trying to come up with a way to kind of communicate in real time what was kind of going on at the state level, how we were responding to that crisis. And Sipping My Tea was born. I'm a tea drinker, and sipping my tea is like, spilling the tea, sharing the information. And we did it through COVID. You saw my dining room in Sacramento. You saw my dining room in LA. Today, I'm in my office in the Hall of Administration with Shirley Chisholm behind me. Hey, Sister Shirley. And a number of people have approached me about what happened to Sipping My Tea. We thought it was great. It's 15 minutes. We learned new things. We met new people. Pastor Sandra Dawson and I were meeting this past December. She raised it. A couple of reporters have talked about it. I'm like, people are really paying attention. Maybe we bring it back. So here we are. Sipping My Tea will be the last Sunday of the month, 6 o'clock. So we're going to do it once a month versus every week like we were doing it during COVID. But I hope you find it informative and enriching and a little bit of fun. We try to keep it light as we sip our tea together. So we always ask you to grab a cup of tea. Isn't my cup and saucer beautiful? I bought it at a tea house in New York years ago. I love that. And I start by sharing with you what tea I'm drinking. Today, I'm drinking Kenyan tea. I was exposed to Kenyan tea on a trip we took almost 2 years ago now to Kenya. We were on the front page of the LA Times. There it is. Was sponsored by a wonderful nonprofit organization, Give Directly, who is responsible for the oldest running guaranteed income pilot in the world there in Kenya. So I traveled with Michael Tubbs and Assemblymember Haney and my Chief of Staff, Frederica McGee, to meet with community leaders, guaranteed income recipients, government leaders about how the model has worked. It was an amazing experience. And it introduced me to my new favorite tea. They serve it with warm milk. It is phenomenal. So welcome to 2025. And what a rough jumpstart to the year it has been. With the devastating fires across LA County. Again, our heart continues to go out to all those who have been impacted between the Eaton fire and unincorporated Altadena, the unincorporated community of Altadena, and Pacific Palisades in Malibu. And again, deep thanks and appreciation to all of our first responders who did and continue to do all they can to make people's lives whole. Including our federal and state partners who have come in, the utility companies, all those, the Red Cross, all those who have come in the middle of this disaster, again, to try to get people safe and back on track. I want to start by thanking them. So a couple things we're going to touch on in today's Sipping My Tea. I want to talk about hate because it's real. We are seeing it. We are immersed in it. And what I have decided in really thinking through since the beginning of the year, what can I do to combat it in a meaningful way? What can I do to continue to be a proactive anti-racist? And what can I do to dispel some of the myths that are out there? So I'm going to show you some of the hate that I get in my social media. In fact, there it is right there. And I want to just, share it so we can use it as a launching pad to combat it with actual facts. So we're going to talk about hate. We're going to talk about homelessness and volunteer opportunities. We're going to talk about how we protect our immigrant communities. And I'm going to talk to you about some work I hope that you will consider doing in supporting your LA County. So I showed you that hateful comment. This is a constituent who I know. We've blacked out his name. You're welcome. And this was in response to my social media post about being at the Rose Parade. I was invited to ride on a float with the Boys and Girls Club because I was given the honor of being an ambassador of kindness. So in response to a post with me acknowledging being honored as an ambassador of kindness, this is the hate that fills my social media. And as expensive as eggs are, I don't think people are letting their eggs rot, sir. So like, whatever. What's so disingenuous about this is a person that we've spent a great deal of time bringing into the fold to talk about how we at the county, how I am leading the effort in the 2nd District to combat homelessness. Next slide. Case in point, here are we at a community meeting that person actually was attending in the circle, engaging community leaders, residents, businesses, civic organizations, community-based organizations. This wasn't a big town hall where we were having a generic conversation about homelessness. This was a targeted community with targeted outreach with both outreach workers, homeowners, small businesses, the sheriff, all of them there to have a strategic conversation about how we deal with our family, friends, and neighbors who are living in RVs and who are homeless. The second picture you see there is a list with the scheduled cleanups where we show people this is the actual address or intersection, and these are the dates by which our homelessness initiatives for the county is actually going to show up to do a cleanup. So we are showing community members that we've heard them, the intersection is scheduled for a cleanup. The next thing you're going to see is something I'm deeply proud of what we are doing to proactively manage RVs. RVs have been one of the more challenging communities to try to get housing to, and you'll hear a little bit why in the upcoming video from Spectrum News coverage of the first in the county RV safe parking lot that I'm proud to say is in the 2nd District.
It's a fresh cut and a fresh start for Maria Valencia.
Because I want to be looking pretty for the New Year's.
And the County of LA hopes this site will be a fresh model in the fight against homelessness. This is a 24/7 safe parking site on county-owned property, the first of its kind in LA. The goal is to get RVs off the streets and people like 62-year-old Maria into permanent housing. She says she's lived in this RV for 10 years. She moved in after being evicted from an apartment and says constantly moving was getting tiring.
No resident places. You cannot go to a resident place. It's got to be like a building outside so you don't bother nobody.
That's why when an outreach worker offered her this parking spot, she said yes. Now, Maria and 20 others are part of a pilot program spearheaded by LA County Supervisor Mitchell. The safe parking lot is in her district.
And we are meeting these RV residents where they are. The whole concept around safe parking is it is a temporary solution, but to allow people to stay in their RVs, but to park someplace not only legally appropriate, but safe.
According to the supervisor, there are 7,000 RVs being used as housing across the county, 2,000 in her district. The county's funding this project, and in order to park here, residents must own the RVs themselves, be open to moving into permanent supportive housing, and be open to surrendering their RV when they move into housing. In return, they get a gated spot to stay in, 24/7 security, bathrooms, showers, and electrical hookups for the RVs. Jose Garcia says he's grateful for the stability, but he says he's reluctant to leave his RV behind because it's kept him off the streets.
I don't like that to be homeless in the street. No. This is terrible for the people I saw.
And that's the unique challenge RVs pose, according to Dr. Margot Cashel, a professor of medicine at the University of San Francisco. She specializes in homelessness and says it's difficult to ask someone to leave an RV if permanent housing isn't guaranteed.
People were not willing to give up their RV for an option that they knew would, in a short period of time, leave them worse off than they were currently. And they prefer it over congregate shelter because it provides them privacy.
Dr. Cashel says safe parking sites can work if residents like Maria know permanent housing is around the corner.
I'm ready, yes I am. I'm ready to have a home. Definitely ready.
Hoping for a place more permanent than a parking lot.
So how am I going to combat misinformation and hateful rhetoric from people? with the facts. Will our RV safe parking solve for all homelessness or have a space for every RV in LA County? No. But am I doing nothing? That's not true. So I'm very proud to share about the RV safe parking as an example of work that we are doing successfully. And I'm going to sip my tea on that. Next, as we talk about, with regard to homelessness, the Greater Los Angeles homeless count is coming up. It was postponed because of the fires. Please come out and join us in the 2nd District. My staff and I and throngs of volunteers come out and help us identify the actual census so we know how many unhoused family, friends, and neighbors, how many are living in RVs, how many are in tents and in street encampments. So please consider coming out and volunteering one of these days or all of these days, February 18th through the 20th. You can register by clicking on that code, and we would welcome you to come out and support our efforts to make sure that the Greater Los Angeles homeless count is as accurate as it can be. So as we continue to talk about hateful rhetoric that we are overwhelmed by on our own social media, as what I showed you, and in the airwaves, we want to talk about our immigrant family, friends, and neighbors, and making sure that they know their rights. To help with this, our Office of Immigration has created a Know Your Rights page that is here up on the screen. And I believe fundamentally that our strength as a county and a country is a direct derivative of our rich, authentic diversity. And so we're going to continue to share updates and resources on how we're working together to keep all of our communities safe. I had lunch with my sister, Nikki, in Little Ethiopia a week ago Friday, and she told me the painful story about how she's hearing from our school districts about Ethiopian children here in LAUSD who are telling their teachers, I'm not going to be able to come to school next week. I'm afraid. And how she's trying to refer the district to, attorneys and advocates who speak Amharic and who can support these families. Supervisor Solis this week, elevated the issue that when we talk about the immigrant community, it's not just Spanish speaking. It's people from all over the world, from Ethiopia, from Haiti, from the Ukraine. We heard members of the public call in representing immigrants from Ukraine who are asking for grace and support during these very scary, trying times. So what's most important is that we know our rights. So please utilize that information and share it. Last will be the big piece of news for today's Sippin My Tea is to talk about an opportunity for you to really support your county and your community and engage and be active. This last November, several of my colleagues on the board put a ballot measure on the ballot, Measure G, for governance, and it's really going to radically change the governance infrastructure for LA County. Most people focus on the fact that it will expand the board from 5 to 9. True, that doesn't happen until 2032. It will call for an elected CEO in 2028. But right now, most immediately, in the way you can participate is Measure G created a governance reform task force comprised of residents of the county who will really do most of the nitty-gritty detailed work about what LA County's governance reform is going to look like. And so it will be a body of 13. And so I happen to think it's really important that people who live in unincorporated LA County, who rely most significantly on county resources and services, are represented on the task force. So please read about it, consider applying. You can make an impact on how decisions are made from policy and budgeting by your board of supervisors. We are so committed to making sure this governance reform task force is diverse and representative that we've scheduled a informational meeting so you can get all your questions answered about what does it mean for LA County to have a governance reform task force? What kind of questions will they be answering? What kind of decisions will they be making? So please take a look at it. Consider participating in our informational meeting on Friday, February 21st at 5 p.m. I'm going to ask my staff to make sure we can record it. So if people can't make 5 p.m. on a Friday, you can see this on my website, just so you can get all the information directly from the county's executive office, who is in charge of administering most of the elements of Measure G based on the measure. The ballot measure passed. There are elements of it, frankly, I didn't support. I'm concerned about how we pay for some of these things. I'm concerned about a CEO that has no term limits. However, it's the law of the land, and I want to make sure you understand it and know about it and are in a position to participate by considering applying to be a member of the Governance Reform Task Force. It's important. This is a way in which you can get directly involved in how your county government governs itself. Fair enough? All right. So happy Black History Month. Even though Google has removed it from its calendar, I will still be celebrating it and acknowledging it. So much so that I'll be riding tomorrow, February 17th, Monday, in the Kingdom Day Parade right in the heart of the 2nd District. And in keeping with my commitment to bring county services to you, I will be on a county float. You know, last year I was the, what do you call it? I was the, who's the person who's like the main person in the parade? Grand Marshal. I was the Grand Marshal last year, used my platform as a reason to talk about the importance of mobility. So I rode my bike, had about 100 2nd District cyclists joining me to talk about metro and clean air and different forms of mobility for our community. This year, I'll be on a float with other county department heads. And the point is, we're bringing our county government and services to the community. So I hope that you can come out and see us and participate in the Kingdom Day Parade. It too is postponed from its traditional King holiday weekend because of the fires. So I hope people know that it's been rescheduled and you will tune in. Thank you, KABC, for always featuring it. And you'll come out and participate. Well, 16 minutes, we did it. Welcome to Sippin My Tea 2025 style. I hope you find it informative and useful. And I look forward to talking to you again next month. Remember, the last Sunday of the month, 6 o'clock. Tune in to my Facebook page. Appreciate you. Bye.